Coming up on Arirang News, South Korean President Moon Jae-in and his Emergency Economic Council have decided to double the government's emergency relief package to almost $80 billion. It's aimed at helping small business, the self-employed, and other key industries. The Japanese government has announced that its middle schools from next year will be using textbooks that teach falsely that South Korea's Dokdo islets belong to Japan. It's a claim Japan continues to make, unsupported by history or reality. And reports say the 2020 Tokyo Olympics are being postponed. Japan is said to be in negotiations with the International Olympic Committee about when to reschedule them. It's 5:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The Japanese government has announced the textbooks it'll use next year in its middle schools, and they include books that repeat Japan's false claims to South Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo. On Tuesday, it authorized 17 textbooks on history, civics, and geography that say South Korea's Dokdo islets are Japanese territory, illegally occupied by South Korea. The South Korean government sees these books as not only teaching students falsities about Dokdo, but also distorting history and attempting to whitewash Japan's imperialism while downplaying its use of wartime sex slavery and forced labor. Japanese media are reporting that Japan is in negotiations with the International Olympic Committee about postponing the 2020 Tokyo Olympics by up to a year. One key member of the IOC says the decision's already been made. Several countries have pulled out, saying they won't risk putting their athletes in danger. Kim Jae-hee reports.
Japan's Sankei Shimbun reported on Tuesday that the Japanese government is negotiating with the International Olympic Committee to postpone the Tokyo Olympic Games by a maximum of 1 year. Citing a senior Japanese government official, the newspaper also said Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will hold a phone call with IOC President Thomas Bach later on Tuesday. IOC member Dick Pound has also said the Olympics will be postponed. He told USA Today that on the basis of the information the IOC has, the postponement of the Olympics has been decided. He added the parameters going forward have not been determined, but the Olympics will not be held on July 24, 2020. This comes after the World Health Organization's executive director for its health emergencies program said that the WHO has confidence that Japan and the IOC will not proceed with any games should they be dangerous to athletes or spectators. He also added the decision will be made by the IOC and the Japanese government very soon. National associations are making their views felt too. Canada and Australia have already said they won't take part if the Olympic is held this summer. The U.S. Olympic Committee, in a statement Monday night, urged the IOC to postpone the Games. And the head of Britain's Olympic Association told UK media on Monday that Britain will be following Canada and Australia shortly. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
With South Korea's economy still on an emergency footing because of the COVID-19 outbreak, the government's decided to double the amount of financial aid for local businesses. President Moon Jae-in says it reflects the government's resolve to protect local companies, both large and small. Kim Min-ji reports.
South Korea has decided to double the size of the economic relief package unveiled last week to $80 billion. During the second meeting of the Emergency Economic Council on Tuesday, President Moon Jae-in said that the emergency funds will be used not only to help small businesses and the self-employed, but also companies which are part of South Korea's key industries. The president said it's a preemptive step to protect the domestic firms and maintain employment.
코로나19의 충격으로 인해 기업이 도산하는 일은 반드시 막겠습니다. 정상적이고 경쟁력이 있는 기업이 일시적인 유동성 부족 때문에 문을 닫는 일은 결코 없을 것입니다.
Of that, $23 billion will be used to support medium-sized companies and, if needed, large corporations as well. A portion of the fund will be directed at stabilizing financial markets in light of the turbulence triggered by COVID-19 fears. Some $15 billion will be injected into the bond market stabilization funds that are double their initial size. Another $8.5 billion is earmarked for securities market stabilization funds, 20 times larger than those left aside in the wake of the 2008 global financial crisis. On top of that, $14 billion will be used to provide firms with extra liquidity.
오늘 2차 비상경제회의는 우리 기업을 반드시 지키겠다는 정부의 결연한 의지로 시작합니다. 정부는 우리 기업에 들이닥친 거대한 위기의 파고를 막는 든든한 방파제 역할을 하겠습니다.
Moon also called for preparations to exempt or delay payment of national insurance and public utility fees to help individuals as soon as possible. President Moon stressed that the biggest victims of COVID-19 were the people, calling for feasible measures to support people's livelihoods by the time the third meeting takes place next week. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you for coming on today.
Good afternoon.
As we just heard, the President led the second meeting so far of the Emergency Economic Council, deciding to expand the 50 trillion won worth of economic measures to 100 trillion won. This is aimed at helping small businesses, the self-employed, and key industries. What do you make of this aid package?
Well, at least the market is very happy with this news. If you look at the KOSPI, it's up 8.6%, adding 127.5 points, actually breaking above 1,600 level. Also, the KOSDAQ is up 8.26%. Clearly, this is following the relief package that come from the U.S. side, where the Fed have decided that they will use a massive and limitless stimulus in terms of purchasing any type of debt, including the corporate bonds. And because of the corporate COVID-19 pandemic issues, the government is clearly trying to do everything possible to battle the economic downturn. So that's coming from the U.S. side. But on top of that, today, as you said, South Korea President Moon Jae-in have said that government will double the planned rescue package to contain the mounting economic financial fallout from the coronavirus to 100 trillion won. Now, government will expand policy financing loans to small and medium-sized companies, help them keep their jobs, also inject liquidity to the financial markets by purchasing the corporate bonds and various other type of securities. Clearly, this is quite strong commitment. Of course, there's doubts and questions on how this will be dealt with, whether or not political side can be agreed between the ruling party and opposition parties. But nevertheless, at least we are seeing some structure that comforting the market at this point in time.
Well, you mentioned the Fed's pledge of unlimited quantitative easing still. U.S. stocks overnight were down another 3%. Asian stocks are up today, of course, including Korea. But a lot of people are saying the stock market's going to get worse before it gets better. What do you think, Mr. Yu?
I think that there's a big question mark. You have seen various investment bankers in U.S. have said that U.S. economy will plunge in terms of the growth rate in second quarter. They're talking about anywhere between 15% to 30% decline YOY. That is one of the single biggest decline that we haven't seen in histories. So clearly that is the big issue, and that drove the stock prices yesterday falling by quite a significant amount. However, if you look at the futures market right now in U.S., U.S. stocks are poised to join the worldwide rebound that we are seeing today. If you look at the Dow and S&P and NASDAQ, all are up close to 5% in terms of the futures. Clearly, the Fed announcement of using the limitless liquidity injections, and we are actually seeing a huge amount of injection that is happening. If you look at the Fed balance sheets, it's actually now hitting the record high level of amount. Also, yes, there has been delay in terms of the passing the $2 trillion economic stimulus package. That's not been approved yet, but we think that pressure on Democrats will be very high, and therefore the ruling party and opposition party will come to an agreement probably within this week to implement that $2 trillion economic stimulus package. All that being said, if these type of liquidity injection as well as the fiscal boosting measure that happens, then we think that the level of the damage that we will see in the first and second quarter can be limited, and we will see a very strong rebound in the third quarter this year.
Well, elsewhere, we see oil prices at historic lows right now for a combination of reasons. A bit of a bump higher today, though. Where do you see oil going?
Yes, as you said, WTI crude oil price went back and forth during the trading session on Monday, and so is today. We continue to see a lot of questions regarding the crude oil market and what the direction will be. Some people are saying that you will see $20 will break, and you might see even low teens prices. Some people are saying negative prices. I don't know how they come up with that number. But in any case, there's continuation of very bearish sentiment that's happening right now. Clearly, this is because of the Saudi Arabia and also Russia continues to have issues, and they have not decided to cut productions. And also, there's doubts about how shale gas companies might be under huge pressure. In overall, we think that these three big parties, the Saudi Arabia and also Russia, as well as U.S., will come to a table and decide on some kind of production cut. And if that actually happens, then oil price might probably go up to around $35 level at least. Right now, it's only at $25 range. Clearly, this is much lower than right before the coronavirus hit. The prices were anywhere between $40 to $50 range. So clearly, this has been a major decline. Clearly, this is putting pressures for the economic growth rates and a lot of these related sectors. However, if the production cut happens and oil price does recover, then we will see some lights to this dark tunnel.
Very interesting, Mr. Yu. We'll have to leave it there for today, though. Thanks, as always, for making time today.
Thank you very much.
The South Korean government plans to focus its budget next year on revitalizing the economy after the difficulties caused by the coronavirus outbreak. That's according to the budget guidelines reviewed and approved by the cabinet on Tuesday. To this end, the government plans to boost tourism by introducing tour packages with programs to attract tourists to different parts of the country. Also, the government will support the self-employed and small and medium-sized companies and will assist in enhancing South Korean firms' global competitiveness. The government's decided that students attending private academies, known in Korea as hagwons, are entitled to a refund of their tuition if they're confirmed to have the coronavirus. Hagwons have been urged by the government to close, but some are still open, unlike public schools, kindergartens, and daycares. Until now, those who've paid their hagwon tuition have not been guaranteed a refund if they became infected. Officially, the change in the law applies to infectious diseases in general. Academies have seen a hit to their revenue because of the coronavirus, so the government's promised to support them too. Universities in South Korea have extended their period of online classes until sometime in April as they play their part in reducing further infections. However, as many professors are struggling to get to grips with cyber lectures, a local startup's offered to help colleges in the worst affected city of Daegu. Choi Jung-yoon reports.
It has been more than a week since universities in South Korea started online classes. But with campuses lacking enough smart devices and studios, educators say schools are not tooled up to produce high-quality lessons online.
At the beginning, professors who are used to face-to-face lectures just recorded their voices over the top of their presentation slides. But if the online lecture sessions are to expand, we need to prepare better and give students a higher quality of education.
The city of Daegu, where the coronavirus hit the hardest, was one of the cities not prepared for the shift. This startup company has offered to help the universities in Daegu, where the online classes are needed more than anywhere else in the country. DDcast, an education publishing and streaming service, has decided to give out its system for free to universities in Daegu.
As coronavirus goes longer than we expected, now students are lack of educations and they're desperate to learn. And we hope that we can resolve that issues by providing the solution.
It can also be a solution to the complicated and costly process of making online lectures.
It's a software that merges all of the stages to the video creation process all in one place, from the filming to the editing to the subtitling and even streaming.
This service aims to reduce the expenses of making online lectures to 1/10 of the current price, as only one person and one program is needed to make the lectures. Universities in Daegu could save over $700,000 thanks to the support. 최정윤, 아리랑 뉴스.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.